Will he perform when he has money right in front of him? Run up on that boy and kill his cousin right in front of him. I just tapped his shoulder so I know that he is touchable. Put 30 in my chop and then I turned him to a Huxtable. Came a long way from pre-K and eating Lunchables. I just took your life and as you know it's unrefundable. When you up the Smith then you should never feel uncomfortable. Don't waste any time bro, just turn him to a vegetable. Do the job right or you are surely going federal. Go knock on some wood but I just feel I did incredible. How many shots were fired? I don't know but more than several. I thought it was just him, I can't believe it was a bunch of them. Brody did him dirty, hit him up and now I'm stomping him. I know a lot of demons, I can summon any one of them. Bodies holding bodies, it was as if they were cuddling.
Hello there. Today we have another episode of Naruto's Meliodas. This is the last episode. And yeah. This episode is probably gonna be same length around last episode because when I edit something it has to download and then it has to upload and it takes forever. So I honestly don't feel like waiting that long because I want to get a lot of episodes out, or a lot of episodes of What If Naruto Was a Sex with Kage out, and it's another What If coming. What if Naruto was Sonic the Hedgehog? I think, yeah. Okay. But without further ado, and I want to finish off that What If Naruto Izuku parents died. I'm probably gonna make another MHA What If 2. So without further ado, let's get into this. Not as we left off where Meliodas. Sorry, I need to get that in my head. Bond and Elaine had kids. King and Diane had kids. But Diane, she's not the same Diane from 7DS. I just wanted to say that. Everyone had kids besides Meliodas and Elizabeth. Because Meliodas thinks that if he has a kid with Elizabeth, then that he knows that it's gonna be half angel, half demon. But he's not worried about that. He's worried about the fact that if he does have a child, well, which side will he go on? And he knows that this child will probably be stronger than Elizabeth and Meliodas combined. That's why he's so hesitant to have a kid with Elizabeth. But he drilled that in his brain after the first couple times of them having sex. So yeah, let's start off. As everyone's partying, we see. Actually, no. Time skip the month. Meliodas would be around 20, not sure, 20, 22, 21. He's gonna be 21 right now. Meliodas, he's gonna be 21. King is, everyone's the same age besides, Elaine and King. They're like old as shit, cause they're fairies. And Meliodas, he's actually no, he's the same age, like I just said, 21. Meliodas says, as he looks at Bond, King, and Escanor and Merlin, he says we need to go defeat the Demon King. God, he's really irritating me and he's draining my power by a second. He says he's draining my power, and it's really irritating because I have to go to sleep to charge it back up. Or I have to kill. As he looks at Escanor, and he says, let's go somewhere around 11 o'clock or 11 noon. As Escanor says, okay, that'd be a great time, because maybe at 12, maybe we'll still be fighting him through 12, and yeah. Then one night, they all kiss their girls goodbye. As Bond, they all kiss their kids goodbye too. As Elizabeth, she doesn't care about if their son gets corrupted. Meliodas and Elizabeth's son. She cares, but she just wants to have a child with Meliodas because she loves him so much. So Meliodas, he hugs and kisses Elizabeth as he's the last one to walk out of the boar hat. As he's about to walk out, Elizabeth says, Meliodas, as he turns around, and she says, as she looks down and says, are we gonna have a kid? And Meliodas says, I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant. And she says, why? And he says, hold on. As he walks out and says, hold on, he says, hold on, this is gonna take a second. As everyone says, well, we're hurrying up. As he says, he walks back in, and he says, why is it gonna take, he says, why is it, he says, the only reason I'm so hesitant is because if we do have a child, I know that he's gonna be half angel and half demon. And if he gets corrupted by his demonic power and chooses to go on killing sprees all the time, then I don't think just us two will have to stop him. As he says, as Elizabeth goes to him and says and hugs him. As Meliodas hugs back and starts crying. As he says, I just don't want to have a corrupted son. I don't want him to be just like me. As she says, you're not corrupted, Meliodas. It's just, as he says, I'm a demon. I know. As she says, you're not a demon, you just have. As he breaks the hug and says, he says, I'm a demon and I know it. As he walks out the door. As he walks out, he gets to everyone. As he goes to his second demon form, top left. As he says, come on. As everyone starts following, they start following Meliodas. As they see, my phone's about to die. Shit. Everyone's following Meliodas. They're all following Meliodas. As Meliodas, Bond says, hey Captain, where are we going? As he says, this is the direction of God. He says this is the direction of God. As he says, oh, okay. As he gets he says I don't even know what to say anymore. Meliodas says, he says he's gonna be strong, unlike the Demon King, who is very, very weak. And he says, King, try to heal people. He says, try to heal Escanor, or if they're hurt. As he says in Bond, honestly, you should be able to solo him since you're practically immortal, same as you. He says, Escanor, you're immortal around 12 noon, right? Around noon. As he says, yes, I am. Nothing can hurt me. As he says, but it's only available for 60 seconds. As he says, okay, we'll use that to our advantage. As they fly into the kingdom of heaven. Well, they don't fly. They see it. As he says, there it is. As angels, archangels, they sense a very powerful presence as they look at the gates to see. They look at the gates to see demonic presence taking over heaven. It starts turning black, and the air starts becoming thicker. As the angel says, demons are here. As all the archangels rush at the gates, as they just got done, as Meliodas and everyone, the deadly demons. I'm gonna just call them that. Yeah, the deadly demons. The deadly demons has just got done killing pretty much all the low angels. As one of the archangels, the nigga with the two heads, says, he says, this is quite shocking. As he says, low level demons acting if they can stop us. As as he charges up his water spear as he shoots it at Meliodas. As it hits Meliodas, and Meliodas pulls his spear out, and it instantly heals him. As as Meliodas looks at him, and he knows he fucked up. He just knows. He has that feeling like, oh shit, I should have never did that. As Meliodas says, as he rushes him, and he uses his demonic it's like his whole right hand is with like demonic power as he grips in his chest and pulls out his heart. As the angel falls, as he says, why aren't you getting up? His other personality says, why aren't you getting up? You can fight. He says, yes, I know. He says, yes. He says, you have more hearts than that. He says, yes, I know that, but they don't. As he says, nice thinking. As Meliodas says, he says, someone take out that angel's heart. As he gets up, he says, I'm not an idiot, you know. He says, if demons have more than one heart, don't you think an angel would too? As Meliodas plunges the rest of his hearts. As he plunges two more of his hearts. As he's on his last breath. The angel's on his last breath. As he opens his eyes and says devastation. He says light devastation. He says light devastation. As he started doing some hand signs and chants. And if y'all ever seen I forgot what it was called. I forgot what it was called. But he starts riding in the air as he starts chanting at the same time. And a light ray comes down, multiple light rays, should I say, comes down and one of them hits Meliodas as Meliodas screams in pain as Sun and King does the sunflower healing. As Bond says, oh no you don't. As he gets in front of the captain, he sees another beam about to hit Meliodas as he throws his nunchucks and it deflects it. As they come back to him, don't ask me how, they just do. They come back to Bond as he sees Escanor about to get hit from the back as he jumps in front of it and dies as his body comes back. As Escanor says, thank you, Bond. As Meliodas gets up and says, come on. As Bond says, Captain, no thanks. As Meliodas looks at him and says, shut up. As King says, that's a demon, alright. As Meliodas goes to his third form, top right. He goes to his third form. As he says, as he looks, he sees the other four archangels. He sees 4 archangels come. Or no, 2. Because, wait, my what's his name? Michael? The one that Escanor took they blamed Escanor for taking his sunflower. The sun thing. Esterosa. Yeah, basically, Esterosa. He was the other archangel. And he's gonna be an archangel in this one, too. He was still an archangel, but I'm saying, like, he's not gonna be corrupted by the demon king. Meliodas says, he says, as he points at him, and he says, I have him. You guys still got the rest. As Meliodas rushes, Esterosa, as they start having a hand-to-hand combat, as Meliodas kicks him and does a backflip back. He dashes back. As he dashes back, he sees that Esterosa is charging up a beam, and he has the sunlight thing too, but it's like stronger than It's stronger than Escanor's. He shoots a he has in his hand. Oh, he has something in his hand. As he says, King says, "What's that?" As he sees Meliodas about to get hit. As he does, he says, "Damn it!" As he looks at his guy, as he's getting rushed. As "Oh, you're weakling." As he does the fox hunt. It's not fox hunt. It's the other one. The yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Forgot what it was called. But yeah, not fox hunt, but the other move that he uses. Hunterfest. Yeah, he says Hunterfest as he gains some of the Archangel's powers. As Archangel, he starts losing balance as he falls down, as his wings disappear, as Bond steps on his head and says weakling and crushes it. As he says, "Hey, Captain, do we have to take out the hearts to kill him?" As he says, "Yes, they will come back alive." As he's fighting, and he says, "Don't ask me any more questions." As they start taijutsu battle on the floor. As Meliodas, he activates, or he actually no, he doesn't chant. He does a silent little chant as they see a dark array or a dark ball coming from the sky. As everyone, the archangel, the archangel looks up and sees the dark ball. As Meliodas says, "Now die!" As he throws, as Meliodas throws the archangel at him. As he throws it at him, he throws the archangel at the death ball. As he says, "Seal!" as the dark ball starts getting smaller and smaller. As he dies, he gets obliterated because light and dark do not mix. King is fighting his archangel as Bond says, "King, you need some help?" As he says, "No, I have this weakling." As he says, sunflower devastation as the sunflower comes. As he says, "Why are you trying to heal him?" As he says, "Just watch." As the sunflowers are shooting rays of beams as they're missing, and he says, "I need to get a direct hit on him." Damn it. As he says, first configuration, chastity fall, spirit spear. As his spirit spear comes, as he rushes him with the spirit spear. As he breaks the spirit spear, and King isn't shocked by this. As he says, "You fell right into my trap." As King, when King was fighting the white monster dude, and he did the one like the little small kunais, and they all rushed him. That's basically what he did. He says, "Ha, there we go." As he rushes him with the small kunai, as they all like impale him. As he feels this, the shit hurts. As he falls down, and he says, "Direct hit." As the laser destroys the archangel. What's his name? Escanor. He already defeated his, really, Escanor. That's Escanor. Come on now. It's about 12:47 as they all rush to the palace, as they see God sitting on his throne. As God has, like lowercase God, they're saying. God has white eyes, yellow pupils, black hair. He looks menacing, but he's a kind person. As he says, "Demons have come and infiltrated my castle. Those angels that I gave birth to." As he says, none of them survived. as he looks at all the sins, and he says, "You." As he points at King, and he rips at his heart. As he rips at his heart, King falls back. As they all rush him, besides Escanor, trying to, like, he says, "Damn it." As he says, "King, stay with me." As King says, "Damn it, I'm gonna die." As he says, chant the sunflower." As he says, "You idiot." As he says, he starts to chant the sunflower thing. As King, he doesn't have his fully grown wings. I haven't said that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I said that, but yeah, he doesn't. As he says, sunflower, as he supposedly dies. As Escanor gets angry and angry as it's 12. As his eyes become fiery red, his eyes grows 10 times larger. As his axe, he says, I forgot what it was called, but he gets a sunball as he slams it on God. As he says, that actually hurt. As he looks at Escanor and rushes him. As Escanor, God puts his hand, or at least tries to put his hand through Escanor's chest and rips out his heart. As his hand barely goes an inch in. As he says, "Die!" As he slashes him and starts slashing and slashing. As God he's getting hurt, but it's not major. He says, as he jumps, he teleports back. As he says, "It looks like I'm gonna have to get serious." As they all taijutsu battle. As Escanor's time is running out. As he says, "I don't have much time left." As he says, "Devastation, sunbeam." As he says, this is gonna take all my power, but it's worth it." As he coughs up blood, and he says, "I was dying anyway." As he shoots a devastation beam along with 10 balls of sun at the god, as God's arm gets ripped off and his legs get shattered, as Escanor supposedly dies. As we see Meliodas, Bond, and Meliodas and Bond, rather than didn't come. Meliodas and Bond. Meliodas says, "Damn it, Bond, come on." As Bond, as he says, "Did you know I could disable people's powers?" As he looks at Bond, and he kills him. As Bond falls back and dies. As Meliodas turns and looks at Bond, he sees King, he sees Bond, and he sees Escanor dead. As his eyes turn black, fueled with hatred and rage, he says, "You'll die." As he starts laughing like a maniac. As God says, "I should finish you off now, before you get even powerful." As he summons a blade, Excalibur to be exact, as he tries to slice off Meliodas' head, as it shatters, as Meliodas starts twitching, and he starts twitching, as he falls down, and he says, "You'll die!" He says, "You'll die," in a demonic voice. As God is actually a little bit scared as he starts stepping back, and a black ray of darkness shrugs down on Meliodas. As everyone sees this in Britannia, like everybody in the world sees this, as Elizabeth says, "Meliodas," as she starts running towards the beam. As everyone tries to hold her back, as they have to knock her out to hold her back. As Naruto says, Meliodas, he says, "You'll die," as he opens his eyes, and he says, "A king versus a king." As Naruto, he says, "What the hell is that?" As he basically sees Meliodas Demon King form with bottom with the bottom top right. Yeah, Meliodas Demon King form and top right and bottom left, both combined. As Naruto says, Naruto starts laughing. Meliodas starts laughing as he says, you'll die." As he runs, so Meliodas runs blitz to God, as God can see his movement, as he gets his heart and his chest impaled, as Meliodas says, "Die, die, die," as he starts stomping and punching. He starts throwing rapid punches, and he starts throwing slams, and he just obliterates. He tries to. Oh yeah, he obliterates. As he shoots many death beams and dark orders at God. As we see King says, he stretches his arm and says, finally, the curse activated. As Meliodas turns around and deactivates Ballistic mode. As he says, "What do you mean?" As he sees King's fully grown wings. As he says, "So you needed to die?" As he says, "Yeah, I did." As he stretches his arms and says, "It feels good to be back." As he does a sunflower drop on Escanor, and Escanor says, "I am powerless now." As he's still in his buff form, he says, "What is this?" He he says, "I healed you." As he says, he says, "Meliodas, you healed me. What do you mean?" As he says, as Meliodas says, "You see," he says, "You see, I have this power now. I killed God, and now I have his power. I took it forcefully." As he says, "And I gave you a little extra boost." As he looks at King, and he's like a light, it's like a little small needle. As he throws it at King, as King catches it, as he says, "Thought I wouldn't see it." As he says, "Nice eye." As he looks at Bond to find him still laying on the ground. As as Meliodas says, let me slow down. Meliodas says resurrection, demonic. As we hear as it shoots Bond. As Bond, he opens his eyes as King says sunflower healing devastation. As three drops of the sunflower heals on him. As Bond gets up, as he says, "Bond, you have your immortality back." As he says, "Now where's that bastard that killed me?" As he says, "Who's that?" As he says, "That's Meliodas. He went to his Demon King form." As Meliodas says, "Yeah, that brat made me go." He says that brat made me go into this form. As he says, "So did you kill God?" As he says, "Well, there's no more ruckus." As he says, "This is my kingdom now." As he sits on a throne, and in heaven starts to become black. The floor starts to become black with ash, and it smells horrible. It has this horrible stench to it. As he says, "We will dominate the angelic race." As he says, wait, I feel like I gotta make another part of this, but I'm not, sadly. He says, "We will dominate," actually, yeah. He says, "We will dominate the angelic race, and we will live he says, "We will live in a world with only demons and humans." As he says, "Well, we won't kill one angel, my little girl Elizabeth." as he body flickers to Elizabeth and brings her back, as she's sitting on his lap, as she gets up quickly, and she turns around, sees Bond, everybody, as she looks around, and she doesn't know, but she has this feeling that it's Meliodas, as she kisses him, as Meliodas makes a barrier around them, as they're kissing and kissing, as Elizabeth says, Meliodas, as he says, yes. He says, yes, Elizabeth. As she says, it is you. As she kisses him more. Time skip a couple months. We see, time skip a couple months. A little boy runs into the room, saying, Father, could you tell me? He says, can you teach me some new moves? As he says, Tristan. As he says, I think you know pretty much all my moves. As he says, but what about that one where you turn into a super huge demon king? As he says, who told you that? As he's in his base form, he says, who told you that? As he says, Uncle Bond. As he says, as he smiles, and he says, could you tell Bond to come here, please? And you could stay here. As he goes to get Bond. As he says, hey Bond, did you tell Tristan about my Demon King form? As Bond scratches his head and says, what? Nah, I didn't. You know I'm not like that. As he says, yeah. Tristan says, yeah, you did. You said it was, as he says, Tristan, shh. As she says, oh, you're right, you told me not to tell anyone. As Bond smacks his head, Bond rubs his head and says, listen, Meliodas, he deserved to know. He's your son. As Meliodas kills Bond, Tristan starts screaming. And everyone runs into the room to see Bond getting to see Bond getting revived as immortality thing. As he says I should have been the one to tell him that, not you. As Bond says, yeah, well, he says, yeah, well, he knows now, so it's over. As everyone looks at Tristan and says, why are you screaming? As he says, Father just killed Uncle Bond. As everyone's not like shocked, like Bond. They know Bond is immortal. As they say, okay. As he says, he came back to life, Mother. Am I dreaming? As Elizabeth picks Tristan up and says, no, sweetie. That's just one of Bond's abilities. He can come back to life if you kill him. As she says, oh. Or Tristan says, oh, I'm sorry. As he says, Tristan says, Mother, what's Daddy's Demon King form? Can I see it? As he says, no, son. He walks over to him and says, no, son. You'll see it one day when there's a great threat. As Meliodas says, Tristan says, great threat, but there aren't any more threats. As he says, yes, son, I know. But if there are any more threats, then I'll use the Demon King form for you, okay? As he says, Elizabeth takes Meliodas into his room and says, hold on, Mommy and Daddy have to talk, Tristan. As he says, okay. As he goes, he says, what is it, Matt? He says, what is it, Liz? As she says, are you really going to show him that Demon King form? As she says, yeah. As he says, but you're so As he says, what? As he says, in that form, you're, as he says, the mic. And yeah, I know. But but that's my son. So, as she says, it's my son too. And no, you're not going to show him that form. As Elizabeth says, Meliodas says, why not? As she says, because he doesn't, she says, because, I don't think it's fair that if he asks for something, he just gets it without earning it. As Meliodas says, what? As she says, we can't make our son where, he says, we can't make our son spoiled. We have to say no sometimes, Meliodas. As he says, like I've been saying no to him. You have to start now saying no. You can't just tell him yes or give him, you can't just tell him yes or just tell him when this happens or if something happens, then it will happen, Meliodas. As she says, and that Demon King form would probably be too much pressure for him to even handle. She says it was hardly too much pressure for me to handle. As he says, oh, I was finna make about, actually, yeah. She says it was hardly too much pressure for me to handle. As he says, basically, she says, Meliodas says, I know it's too much pressure. You could hardly walk after. As she says, that's not what I mean. As she starts blushing. As she turns red. As as Meliodas says, he hugs her and says, I know. He says, I understand. I'll tell him no, he can't see the Demon King form. As she kisses him and says, thank you. And start telling him no. Remember, we can't have him spoiled. As they kiss and walk out the room. As he says, Tristan. As Tristan runs back into the throne room and says, yes, mommy. And she says, your father has something to tell you. As he says, well, Tristan, I don't think you're going to be able to see my Demon King form. As Tristan says, what? Why? As he says, well, just as he's about to say, because your mommy said so. And she knows he's about to say that. And she looks at him. And he says, well, because as she's like, hurry up and make an excuse quick. As he says, well, son, the Demon King form would probably kill you just by, he says it would probably kill you just by me, like, actually going into it. As she says, and no. She says, he says, Tristan says, but still, that doesn't matter, right? As he says, Tristan gets his head smacked by Elizabeth and says, idiot, if you die, then do you know how sad it will be? As he says, oh, sorry, mom. As she says, it's okay, Tristan. As that's how I'm going to be in and off this episode. The final episode of What If Naruto was Meliodas. Sonic the Hedgehog Naruto is coming up soon. Maybe, I don't know, soon. Also, is this video an hour? I really hope it's not. Okay, it's 38 minutes. Alright, good. Also, what if Izuku parents died? That's gonna have a couple more parts to it before I finish that off. And what if Naruto was a sexual Hokage? That shit is good. Without further ado, see y'all later in my next What If.